Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Challenge Denmark. We're brought to you by Ceramic Speed, and we're at beautiful Legoland, and I'm sitting at a table of legends. Chris McCormack, two-time Ironman world champion. Luc Van Lierde, former Ironman record holder and two-time champion. Thomas Hellriegel, 1997 champion, and the guy who had the fastest ever second place time. Guys, thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Use the microphone there, boys. Use the microphone. So, relay, when I first saw you guys doing a relay, I'm going, okay, who's going to get the short straw and get stuck running? Because nobody wants to do that 13-mile run. Who's running?
Maka will run.
He's the youngest guy, right?
He is young, he's fit, and
I'm young, I'm not fit.
and he has no option.
yeah, he has to.
Yeah.
He has to run. So Maka, talk a little bit about teaming up with these guys, because you've raced both these guys in the past.
Oh, it was a pleasure. I got approached by the guys here if I'd like to do a relay, and when they told me who my relay members were, I was like, oh, it'd be an absolute honour. You know, I didn't get to race these guys at their true prime. I was definitely a fan, and I got to see them at the latter stages of their career and share many a race with them. But for me, that era of Ironman racing, watching these two guys go to war in 96 and then 97, and was spectacular. You know, I love that era of racing. I actually went to Roth when you broke the world record in 1997. Saw that with my own eyes. It's still, in my opinion, the greatest years of racing. It
was great stuff.
Yeah.
And now, speaking of greatest years of racing, your breakthrough in Kona was the 6th place in 2005.
Yes.
And that's the year where you had done everything right. You had your nutritionist design specific stuff that you were supposed to drink, and you were blowing up, and then you run into Thomas Hellriegel on the way out to the turnaround. And what does Thomas tell you?
Yeah, Thomas basically said, suck it up. I'd pretty much dropped out of the race again. I was throwing up, and he came past. I think he'd had a flat tyre, and he said, hey, man, you've got to get back to Kona anyway. You've got to get back to, the pier. I'm like, you may as well ride with me and stop drinking.
Stop drinking that other stuff. Drink
Stop
Coke.
drinking electrolytes. Drink some Coke. And I threw everything away, all the stuff that sports scientists had told me, and they specifically said, do not touch Coke.
Yes.
And
jet fuel.
And I ended up throwing all my stuff away, taking water and Coke at the next aid station. I came good 10 or 15K later, and I ended up riding the back half of the bike course really well and posted the fastest marathon of the day, and it was a breakthrough race for me. And it was really, for me, something I needed, because I'd worn so much disappointment in Kona, and I really didn't think I could ever get it done there. And to come through, to fight through that, and to see the ups and downs of this race firsthand was definitely the breakthrough for me.
So Luke, you grab that mic from Macca there for a second. Your experience in Kona was just the opposite. You came there for the first time in 96, and you had won Nice, right, a couple times, and were invited over. Didn't qualify, had not run a marathon before. And that day, you break the course record, go 8:04, catch Thomas, even though you had a penalty. Talk a little bit about that day, and that had to be one of the best races ever for you.
Well, I think in history it was still the island was really kind to us that year. So it was no wind, cloudy, a little bit rain on the run. So it makes a big difference in Hawaii. If it would have been years like 98, I probably wouldn't have finished then. So big difference, the conditions.
Well, it was interesting because I remember after the 96 race, because you had been told, the winds are really bad, and you're going, well, I'm from Belgium, how bad can they be? And they weren't bad that year.
Nope.
So you thought, like, this is, they all think hard wind is not hard wind.
Yeah.
Then 98.
And 98 was a tough year. I came second that year, and I was pretty happy with that.
Yes.
Because Peter was really strong that year, really, really strong. He was the only one who could follow Thomas and Jürgen that year. I saw that happen, and I decided, I don't believe that they can hold that. But Peter did hold that.
Yes.
So he got up to win 2 more times. So
yes. And I remember that you basically, we drove by you, and you're sort of shaking your head, and afterwards you said that the easiest win on in 98 was tougher than the toughest win in 96.
Yes, it is. It was the conditions. I don't know how the conditions were the years after that. There were a few more years that there was a lot of winds.
2001 was massive,
Yeah.
So that makes a totally different race, and then you can get totally different athletes at the finish line.
Right. So you're coaching Michelle Vesterby, and you've been with a little over a year now.
Yeah, I've been coaching Michel a little over a year now. Frederik's been with me for 4 or 5 years now, and Marino's been with me for a year and a half now.
And all three of them, Kona is the goal for this year?
Kona is the goal for Frederik, for Michel. Marino hasn't decided yet. I know he won Brazil, of course, and had a really good race down there. But he has time until end of August to decide if he's going to compete or not. So,
how tough is it as a coach? Because back then, once you won Ironman, you could pretty much you go to Kona automatically, and you could do whatever you want to build in. Macca could do some sprint distance races and Olympic distance races for yourself. Is it harder for the pros now to get to Kona healthy?
Oh, yes, not only to get healthy there, but to be in shape.
Yes.
I'm 100% sure that there are a lot of top athletes racing Hawaii not at their best because they have done too many races and they haven't focused on doing not only long distance but also doing short distance, because that's also important to work on your basic speed. And if you don't do that, then you don't get that 100% condition by the time Hawaii comes.
What's interesting, being in the States, obviously Hawaii is what everybody talks about, but Challenge Roth, a lot of people don't know that much about that race. Macca has won that race numerous times. You obviously set a world record there at one point. What is it about that race that's so special?
The spectators. I've raced there once, and I've never experienced the atmosphere like that ever again.
Yeah.
I've been there a few times as a coach for my athletes, and even as a spectator, it's
mind-blowing.
Yes, it's incredible. So for me, that is still the race to go to, and to not as an athlete, but also to as a spectator.
What did you have to change with Michelle from what she was doing to now? She says she's in the best shape of her life and just healthy.
Yeah, well, Michelle is tough to herself, especially that. That is one of the biggest changes that I had to make. She's really tough to herself, and she needs to relax a little bit more, and she's doing that more now. So it's a whole year that you have to focus, and not on very short term, but on long term. And that is maybe the biggest changes for Michelle.
So Thomas, we were talking a little bit earlier about the fact that your first two podiums in Kona were 2 second places, and you had two phenomenal races. You had 95, you had 12, 13 minutes off the bike, ran sub 3 hours, which is the magic formula. You get 12, 13 minutes and run sub 3 hours, then somebody's got to make up 30 seconds a mile to catch you. And Mark Allen ran 2:42 and ended up catching you. Then the following year, you have an even better race. 4:24 course record on the bike, 2:46 marathon, and this guy next to you, even with a penalty, comes and catches you. After those first two races, how hard was that to deal with? You knew you really could have won two races. You had the days, 2 great days.
I mean, 96 was a little bit special because they looked after the full moon before.
Yes.
So it was end of October. So that's why I think it was also very quick and not so much wind. It was, I think, 26th of October.
Yes.
And now it's always the second weekend in October because they looked for the full moon.
Right.
So
yes, we used to do full moon, yeah.
Yeah, so there was not so much waves.
Okay.
And so now I think it's very hard. Now it's hard to beat these times because it was more. It's northern hemisphere, so it's a little bit more mild when it's end of October. But for me, it was very hard to keep focused after 2 times second. I mean, the first time I was very happy, of course, because it was my first Hawaii. But then the second time, Mark was not racing anymore, so of course I was at least one of the favorites.
Yes.
And then I was not so happy anymore because I was very fit and was still second place. And the whole year 97, I was just thinking about where to find 2 minutes.
Yeah, because I think combined you lost by 2:25 in 95 and lost by 2:01 in 96.
So,
4 minutes and lost 2 races.
Yeah. So I was only looking for these 2 minutes the whole year. That was
2 minutes. You know that. You're looking for 71 seconds.
So. Yeah, it was. I think it's a little bit hard for me to explain in English, but it's like you come on a trip.
Yes.
You think, your nutrition. Yeah, maybe I should change this and this. Maybe it's already 1 minute now, you know,
Yes.
and then you should do more this and this, or change the bike position, and then or other running shoes, and that's another 30 seconds or something. The whole year I was only thinking about this. Every training, every day, the whole year I was
2
only
minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
I have to find this 2 minutes. This was I was always thinking about that the whole
And
time.
what I love, and then '97, you guys, the Germans, took top 3.
Yeah.
You and Jürgen and Lothar. Yeah. So, Matt, could talk a little bit about that. That you had 71 seconds when you lost to Norman in 2006. Did that play on your mind? Where do I find 71 seconds?
Oh, without question. I think the hardest thing to do is come second, especially when you have the perfect race. You don't know how you could go any quicker, what I could do anymore.
If you're 5th or 6th, it's not
Yes.
big. You are happy. You're top 10. It's good. You are
Yes.
top 10 means world class. But then 5th or 6th, okay.
It is what it is.
But
Yeah.
second is you are the closest to the win. That's the toughest.
And the thing I like about the era these guys are talking about, and it's very different, you know, for a lot of the people who are doing Ironman now, was the amount of races.
Yes.
The '97 year that Thomas won, these guys went head-to-head in Roth, broke the world record with the biggest field in the world that
Yes.
year. Like
Right.
nowadays, that doesn't happen. There's 1 or 2 guys at events, but every Ironman was stacked.
It
Absolutely
really was
stacked.
at that time,
Yeah,
right? Because there weren't that many of them.
there wasn't that many, so you got to. It was quite difficult. You couldn't dodge your competitors if you wanted to be.
you
know,
wanna
on
make
show.
money.
You want to make money. You had to race these guys week in and week out. So you didn't get to hide and prep as much. You had to do that by
Right.
not racing, which
Right.
financially hurt you, or you went to the big races and went head to head. So I remember in '97, I drove to watch these guys in Roth. It was the big money year if you broke the
So you
world
didn't
record.
weren't racing.
No, I was an ITU athlete. I was a geek for this stuff. I'm like, mate.
Yes, he won the world championships at ITU, right?
I remember being in camp in Trebin Trebek in Hahn, a military base, with Brett Sutton, the Australian team, and I begged if I could go and watch Roth. And I remember Brett Sutton saying,
What's that?
Why would you want to? I'm like, dude, Luc Van Lierde's racing, Thomas Hellriegel's racing, Jürgen Zach, it's going to be unbelievable. Lothar later had just broken 8 hours the year prior, and they're putting up all this money for the world record.
Yeah.
And I was an absolute tri-geek there jumping around like a spectator, and I watched these guys just tear it apart. You were 4th that day. It was just the most amazing.
It was 7 hours
Yeah,
57.
7 hours,
yeah.
57.
57.
Yeah.
So you majored in having great races when other people had great races.
Yeah. I was actually, my claim to fame is, well, not a claim to fame, but I was standing at the spot in Roth at the bottom of the hill where Luke passed Jürgen Zach for the win, to win the race. And I was like, oh my God. And I saw it with my own eyes. And they're that, for me, as I said when I started the interview, these guys were the ones that made me want to do Ironman, because they were such characters and such aggressive racers. They didn't dodge anybody. They raced everybody they possibly could, because it was a completely different era. And your pathway to Kona was, you had to perform in Kona, but your pathway there was by taking on the best week in and week out, and then preparing and being at your best for Kona. And it's just a completely different looking sport now.
What's interesting to me is when you look at yourself going over and racing Challenge Roth or Frankfurt, and it's like the German national championships. And Luke, the same type of thing. When you won over there, you're talking about every top German guy is there. That's a lot of pressure on the Germans, right? And Mac, I know you played on that when you were doing the press conference. It's like, listen, the pressure's on Norman, the pressure's on Ferris. This is their championship. I'm just gonna, see what happens. Did you feel that you were going against basically all of Germany?
Yes, of course. My first confrontation was at the
press conference.
The briefing first.
Oh, okay.
I remember we were sitting there in the room. Everybody was quiet, and then one by one we got to go to the front and have an interview. And when it was my turn to go up there, I remember Jürgen. I mean, nice guy, huh? But that day, I mean, he went in and out of that room 4 or 5 times. He dropped the chair. He made some noise. I mean, but that's Jürgen. That's how he handled his stress or tried to stress someone else. This is part of the game.
Yes.
So that was my first confrontation. I said, okay, it's going to be me against the rest. But I let my head clear, and I knew what I was capable of doing, and I sticked to what I was going to go out on the bike, how I was going to swim and bike, and I knew what I was capable of doing, because I remember, I don't know if you remember that, Thomas, we were having dinner with the sponsors 2-3 days before the race. We were sitting together at having dinner at the table, and then I think I told you that story already a while ago. and the sponsors asked us, "What is your weight?" And you were telling your weight, and then and you said, "Yeah, I'm weighing a little bit more than my top shape because this is biking here, so you need to weigh a little bit more." And I said, "Yeah, I was weighing really, really low. I was weighing 68.5 or something." "Oh, that's way too low." I said, "Yes, but then I can run a marathon in 2:36 with this weight." And I did it 2:36, and I needed the 2:36 to win that race. So it was really stressy, but I could handle it.
Yeah, it's hard to win on German soil.
Yeah, and did you feel pressure that the Germans are supposed to win there in Germany? Was it more important to win there than it was in Kona?
I felt much more pressure in Kona.
Did you?
Yeah,
okay.
because it was for us. I think that's the advantage. It's more comfortable for us. I know I was many times in Roth, and I know the course. I know the people. It's my language, and it just feels like home. Yeah, I go 2 hours with the car, and I'm there, and you can pack every stuff in the car. You don't need to look up for the weight for flight.
Right.
So it's much. I feel it's just comfortable. Yeah, that's maybe the big advantage.
So Macca, when you were after 2006, after coming in second to Norman, you were on a mission that following year, basically to go after Ferris and Norman, right? And it was really important for you to go wherever they're racing because you wanted to make a statement.
Yeah, I actually left that race in 06, and that was the first time I had the perfect race. And in my career, every time I'd had that race, I'd always won. I always felt my Konas before that things went wrong and it just didn't go. But I couldn't have done any better. No. I really executed everything perfectly. And here's a guy who's 71 seconds in front. So I'm thinking, hell, how do I beat this guy? You know, if he has that race again. And I figured the only way you can do it is to go on the attack. And I think we'd had a bit of a falling out over a couple of statements that he'd said. I think you were with me when we sort of picked half a fight.
We almost had a brawl at the post party.
Had a punch up with Norman and the same with Farris. And I thought, you know what? What have I got to lose? I'm going to go on the attack. So I threatened to race him every chance I had. And I flew to Dubai, raced Farris, and I made a mockery of him in a sprint race. And during the race, it was so unsportsmanlike, I guess. But
were you standing at the finish line with your watch?
My watch, and said, mate, the difference between you and me, Farris, is I can do this distance. You can't. You're a joke. Don't ever pick a fight with me. And then it was the same with they wanted me to do either Frankfurt or Roth, and I said to the Frankfurt guys, you get one shot at an appearance fee, and Roth did the biggest one. And then obviously they painted this picture that I had avoided the Germans. So I went to Roth. I tried to grab the world record and I missed it. And then I went to Germany and I went to Frankfurt and heckled both Norman and Farris in this race. Actually, that was the year I actually raced with Thomas on the bike.
We rode together.
We rode together in Roth that year.
Yeah.
And
very quick.
We rode really hard on the bike. It was the fastest I'd ridden. I really wanted to try and break the record.
Yes.
And just the 2:36 run is just too quick. I think I ran a 41, but still missed the record by 3 minutes. And we rode, I think, 4:14 or 15.
Yeah. Under 4:20.
Yeah. It was. I had a perfect race, and from there I was really pumped. So I went to Frankfurt and I watched Norman and Farris race, and I heckled them from the sidelines.
Did you really?
Oh, mate, I was horrifically.
Were you
bad.
like in a press truck or just?
No, I was as they'd run past, and I remember them doing an interview, and I was in the background, yelling out, "Hey, Norman. Hey, mate, I'm here. I just won. I nearly broke the world record."
You were wearing your Muhammad Ali shirt. Yeah. That's exactly what
in
Muhammad
12
would
weeks,
do.
we're racing in Kona, champ. 12 weeks, I'm going to kill you, mate. And I'm going to watch you get humiliated tomorrow. And then he was on he actually pulled out on the bike, and Farris did the run. And I was heckling them both on the run, just going, you guys are a joke. You can't even win your national championships, and you're trying to claim that you're world champ. Please give me a break. And it got pretty heated all the way into Kona. And I knew for me then if I had lost that race, it was all over.
I thought it was pretty interesting. Ferris didn't start, right?
Yeah,
he pulled out beforehand, and Norman was puking about 30 miles in.
Yeah, it's amazing what nerves will do. But it was my wife actually pulled me aside and said, you really need to
to back it off.
To back it off a bit. But I sort of it fed my own insecurities and it fed my own. It's how desperate this was in my life. It was my fifth year there, and I'd been close, but I hadn't won. And you really start to think, man, I'm going to go down as the guy who never won this thing. I have whatever it takes, and I don't regret it one bit. Norman and I still talk quite openly now. We're quite friendly about it, but I don't regret it. I needed that in my life to motivate me to get out of bed to find that 71 seconds, and ultimately it's like tennis. I've always said you can win tennis by forcing errors or through unforced errors, and and they made their unforced errors. They cracked. I didn't have to be better. They just cracked, and it left the door wide open for me to take the title.
So in Bahrain right now, Bahrain and Dubai, which you're intimately involved with. So we've had Challenge Dubai and Bahrain, which were phenomenal events this last year in December and February. Yeah. Now the Ironman's just announced that they're doing races. So will those races be like a month apart and just?
I think the challenge race is November 20.
Okay.
The night race.
Right.
And Ironman will be December 4.
Okay, so pretty close together.
2 weeks apart. And there'll be another. There's another announcement, not through Bahrain, but one of the other Middle Eastern countries is announcing
another race.
Another Ironman. You heard it here first.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's a lot happening in this part of the world, and they had to fit it around the Dubai Marathon. There's a whole bunch of events going on, so people are like, why did they cram it so close? But there is actually a lot of events going on in the region at that time of year, and you can't move too late into January, February, because you've got all the cycling races at Tour of Dubai, and so there's only a small window of races, and this part of the world realises that they've got a real health problem. And the way to deal with that is to have events that the community participates in, and that's fun runs, triathlons, and these sort of events. So they're really getting proactive in the endurance racing world, and it was always going to be there for Ironman. Ironman is the gold standard to some degree of the sport, and they're always going to move their way in there because they put on events that the region will ultimately want to take on.
So I'm imagining you're not that excited about running a half marathon tomorrow.
No, I was originally told I was doing the bike ride.
Who was originally going to run the half marathon?
Luke.
Luke was.
Well, he's the fastest runner.
I think I have a 1:15 in me to do.
Yes.
I think I have that, but I have a problem on my calf at the moment, and I don't want to take the risk that after halfway that I have to walk because of the problem that I have on my calf.
You don't want to let these guys down.
I'm just going to do the swim in that cold
The young
water.
guy has to run.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
that's the way it should work.
I don't have a 1:15 in me. As long as
You have a 1:15, but then you have another couple miles.
Exactly right.
So, Luke, when Craig Alexander broke your course record in Kona, was that hard for you, or are you one of those guys that, hey, records are meant to be broken?
No, I expected 2 guys to break it. It was Greg or you, Chris.
Yes.
So it was one of those 2 guys who was going to break it. That was what I expected.
Yes.
So no, records are there to be broken, and I don't have any problems with whoever breaks my record.
Now it's Sebastian Kienle.
He's good.
With a good. Last year it was quite a windy day.
Yes.
With a good day with not much wind and not too hot, I think he will come very close to under 8:10. Definitely, he can.
And Frodeno as well.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He can. I think he can ride much faster. Because he will not run super fast.
Right.
But he did like 4:20 something in a lot of wind, so he will do like 4:15 or something.
And he can run 2:55. 250.
About 250 to 253, 254. Yeah.
So Thomas, I look at from 95 through. You like second, first, 8th, 6th, 5th, 3rd. You had like 8 top 10s in there. Was that important to you to be consistent to get there and be on the podium? I know if you want to win every time,
but maybe it's just a little bit my mentality because I try to prepare as good as possible and. Try to be focused on what I'm doing, and so it's just a result of what I'm doing. It's of course you go there to win, but at the end it was a good.
Oh my God, really good. When did you know that you couldn't win anymore? Was there a point where it was like, okay, I want to get top 10, but I can't be a contender anymore?
Yeah, It's not like on one day. I think it's a process.
Cumulative.
Yeah. The young guys are coming, and you see they are very fast. They come from Olympic distance.
Yes.
They are all very good runners, good swimmers. Yeah. No, now with Sebastian, not so good swimmer. It's very rare at the moment. Yeah. They're all usually when they like Frodeno. They come from Olympic distance. They are super fast in the running. They can run 31 minutes at least.
Yes.
And swim super fast. And the biking, then it's only if they want to do that. Frodeno was also one of these guys who did a lot of mileage when he did Olympic distance.
Yes.
I mean, now some of the young guys, they do not much mileage. Not many of them will come to Ironman racing.
Because they can make a lot of money not doing Ironman racing. You can make a living doing Olympic.
They have another mentality of training, but some of these guys like Relad also, he did to qualify Olympics, his last time he did too many miles on the bike. I was training with him in Lanzarote, long rides and too fast. You should, when you do Olympic distance, you should do short rides and easy to do the hard swims and hard runs. And so, but they can be strong in Ironman, but it will not happen anymore so often. Yeah.
So Luc, as a coach, your career, when you were healthy, you were awesome.
When I was healthy.
That was the thing, right? You got injured a lot.
Yes.
And when you look at that, does that guide you a little bit with your athletes so that they don't have that same type of experience?
Yeah, now it's an advantage that I got injured so much, because I know a lot when one of the athletes has a certain problem, then I can prevent it getting into a real injury.
Right.
And so the most important training of the week is rest. So when the guy is overtraining and getting tired or starting to complain about certain problems, then as a coach you give them rest because you need that. But injuries was my whole career and even after my career, because even now still I get injured, of course. So I have to keep watching out. But that's part of the game.
That's racing. It's racing. When you're hot, you got to go with it, right?
Yep.
You can't back off. Guys, have fun tomorrow. The young guy gets to do the half marathon.
I have no fun.
The short straw. Macca gets the short straw. I like that. The elder statesman. I will swim. I will bike. You will run.
It's a pleasure.
Our guests, 5 Ironman World titles sitting here on the stage with us. Again, we are brought to you by Ceramic Speed. This is Breakfast with Bob from Challenge Denmark at beautiful Legoland. Hold on, everyone. We will be right back.